Hi, it's Nikki from Change Frame here, and I'm just talking through some real life case studies and scenarios where Change Frame adds value. So, Robert was a gentleman in his late 40s, and he'd lived most of his life in Brisbane, which these days is considered a reasonably thriving city metropolis. So, he and his wife Kath had a couple of daughters. Late primary school age, approaching high school. And Robert had this notion in his mind of one day they would move to a smaller town. So in his earlier years growing up in Brisbane, it was not quite the bustling city that it is today. So he remembers his childhood being in a much smaller, sort of community-based type environment. And Robert had always dreamed of actually replicating that for his own family. So it had been this sort of dream he'd held for some time. And they'd reached a point where they were looking to really put that plan into action. And they were looking at moving to Tasmania. So finding that quieter life, a more community-based, simple life as they saw it. So in working through the change frame process, the first step for Robert was to get really clear on that outcome. So for him, it was around creating that sense of community and moving into a place where that was really important and really available to him and his family. So with that in mind, we then did the reflecting forwards process. So, okay, in order for that to happen, when that happens, what does your life look like? What are the outcomes you're expecting as a result of this move to Tasmania? And then working through that as well, what are the things that you need to do in order to make this change work and work well, not just for you, but for Kath and the kids as well. So in going through that, a lot of the reflecting forwards process for Robert was focused on those anticipated outcomes, which really were, some of them, nothing more than romantic notions he'd carried with him through most of his adult life. So we really needed to actually do the reality check process on a lot of those things. And whilst they may be the outcome, what started to become clear for Robert was he'd not really given enough thought to the actual things he needed to do to achieve this change, to make those outcomes occur. And also it was important that he acknowledge that there would be things that would stop happening, that there would be compromises made as part of this change, particularly for his young girls who may not have shared the same romantic notion about what moving to the country in Tasmania would do for them. So this gave Robert the opportunity to really get clear on what it was that was driving him to make this change and what it was he needed to do in order for it to actually deliver the outcome that he was looking for. But it was also important that he, I guess in his own way, encourage his wife and daughters to move through a similar sort of process with Change Frame, around making sure that the whole family are clear on why they're doing it and what they each have to do, what's the role that they play in this change, and then what's the outcome they'll all expect as a result of it. So it was important for Robert that his girls acknowledge that there were things in their life that they would no longer have the opportunity to do, or to do as readily. Popping to the movies, going down to the mall with their girlfriends. So these were things that if they made this change to this more country community-based lifestyle, that they wouldn't have at their fingertips like they did today. So by going through the process himself, Robert was also able to then go and have conversations with his family to, I guess, gently encourage, or even perhaps by stealth, take them through the change frame process, because this was a change that was affecting not just Robert, but the three people he cared about most in his life. So one of the key factors, given that Robert was doing it to provide for his family that life that he recalled from his childhood, where there was a sense of community and it was a simple life where there were veggie patches and chicken coops, he needed to make sure that he wasn't just imposing that dream of his onto his family. So kudos to Robert for going through this process, because he spent a good solid 6 to 12 months actually working through it all with his wife and kids. They'd all had somewhat of the romantic notion. By going through Change Frame and doing a bit of a reality check and a review on some of those perhaps overly romantic notions, and overlaying with that the reality of what was actually life was going to be like, they were all able to arrive at the decision with a lot stronger conviction of why they were doing it, and also acknowledging the role that each of them played in making sure that the change was a success for everybody. So change frame can actually be almost a family game. How about that, hey? So if moving to another town or a city is something that you're contemplating, then it might be worthwhile having a look at change frame and just taking that change that you're contemplating through this process. Pop over to my website, nikkiingram.com, where you'll find a free ebook when you sign up for my newsletter. If you're really game, I'd love for you to roll up your sleeves and get down and dirty in the process itself at one of my workshops. So information there on the website as well about the workshops. So in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks for listening.